As always, it is a wonderful experience to be here with you on Sunday. Yeah, just lots of gratitude and enjoyment and fun stuff as we do our annual pet blessing. This is always, for me, something that I really look forward to. And particularly look forward to the time when we can bring our live friends, animal friends, in the door and do that when we have our own space. So welcome back to everyone. We continue this Sunday with our sojourn through concepts and ideas and things that revolve around the number 10. And I know that most of you have been with us the last couple of weeks when we have been discussing a metaphysical interpretation of the 10 Commandments. We're going to continue this morning, and we're going to look at a few of what is called the 10 core concepts of what we teach here at Open Door Center, this Science of Mind teaching. It's interesting when we think about these 10 core concepts to think about where all of this has emerged from, where it has sprung from. And just as a reminder, I know many of you have taken classes or you've heard here on Sundays a little bit about the history of Science of Mind. Ernest Holmes was born in, it was either Vermont or Maine, I have a lot of trouble keeping up with this, in 1887. He was one of 10 boys. Only one child did not survive to adulthood. I personally think his mother should be canonized right up there with Mother Teresa. Okay, I can't imagine having 9 sons to deal with. And on top of that, for most of the early part of his life, they were itinerant. They did not have a home. May I remind you that this was before people had vehicles that they could crawl into. I have no idea what you do with 9 children when you do not have the wherewithal to put some kind of a roof over their heads. I imagine they stayed with friends, they stayed in caves, they stayed in barns, they stayed wherever they darn well could, maybe in churches, who knows. From that, to me, it is absolutely outstanding and astounding that a teaching as coherent and deep and significant as the Science of Mind could emerge. Obviously, a lot of this had to do with Ernest's very early life. It is said that his mother was very devout and also very adamant that her children would never have anything like a fear of a punishing God taught to them. She taught from the Bible. She taught from a book by Henry Drummond called Natural World, in the spiritual world and the natural, I can't remember, whatever it is. I got it on my phone, I can tell you later. And then there was a third book too, that she used, very similar to the Bible in nature. But what she gave Ernest in particular, was an undying thirst for more information, more experience, a deeper knowingness of what this world is about and whatever kind of forces were behind its creation are about. And of course, from all of that, we have Science of Mind. After Ernest was well established as a writer and a speaker, he was living in California. He had traveled around the United States talking about what he believed in, talking about his philosophies and his understandings from studying all of the world's great religions, different components of science, philosophy, all kinds of things. He began to create a mail order class, and you could participate and learn more about the Science of Mind by subscribing to that mail order coursework, receiving your lesson, doing your homework, and sending it back to Ernest for grading. I just think that would be absolutely astounding. I would be walking to the mailbox on my hands, doing whatever those things are, cartwheels, to get out there to see if I had mail from the master, if you will. He did not consider himself anything like a master. He was a very humble, quiet person, okay, who liked people and liked to entertain and just liked to have a good time. I think it would be rolling in the floors if he was with us this morning to experience techno chicken. Okay, I swear to God. But he had a lot to say, and that is exhibited in tons and tons of literature. Lots of big books, lots of little books, lots of middle-sized books, lots of easily read things, and things that for the life of me will probably be out of my reach, insofar as being able to understand them. He did all of that, and then he passed away in 1960. And after he died, some of the icons in this movement, some of that kind of first string, second string line of ministers, people who had either known Ernest personally or had known people and been taught by people who did know Ernest and work with him personally, said there's got to be a way for us to communicate this. There's got to be a way that we can kind of concisely go through his teachings and devise, a few simple awarenesses, concepts that will give us an ability to explain this material to somebody on the street. It will make it easier for us as teachers to teach, and we know that it will make it easier for those who are interested to learn. And so that's where the 10 core concepts came about. In the mid-1980s, when some of my predecessors, some of them still alive today, such as Reverend Linda McNamara, who lives out on the West Coast, is in her probably mid-80s now, still teaching, still ministering, still doing an amazing job, still incredibly coherent and vibrant. She was with that first group of individuals that sought to put into class form some of the things that they felt were really important about science of mind, its history and its roots, and what it means to us as individuals in terms of practicing on a day-to-day basis, how we can live this philosophy. They came up with these 10 core components or 10 concepts of science of mind, and they felt, if we can explain these in a nutshell, then we can, in a fairly simple way, convey what science of mind truly is about. And so for this Sunday and 2 Sundays from now, October 16th, next week, Bill will be here with you, but in 2 weeks we'll finish this. Today we're going to look at 3 of the 10 core concepts of science of mind. The one that we start with is probably the one that I find to be one of the most significant. It's what we refer to in our teaching as oneness. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I try to put words around that and define oneness, I have a really tough time. Do any of you have ideas about oneness means? What it means?
There's no separation.
There's no separation. Can't.
Everything you see and everything you hear, everything around you is really, looks different, but it's quite the same.
Looks different, it's all the same. Yes, it really is.
When the Dalai Lama orders a pizza, he has one with everything.
One with everything, there you go. Yes, I would like that. So, Don, yeah.
A partial way to look at it is the way the Plains Indians do with Mitakuye Oyasin, which means we are all related.
We are all related, yes, yes. Yes, and to me, it is. It's a very elusive concept. So in thinking about that, I turn to the dictionary. Sometimes it holds some wisdom. What the online dictionary.com said, oneness is defined as a strong feeling of closeness or affinity or unity. Union, I'm sorry, it's union, it's not unity. Maybe I better put the glasses on so I can see it. About 7 years ago, Mike and I went down to Plains, Georgia, and we heard Jimmy Carter teach Sunday school. I encourage you, you don't want to go in the dead of summer because it's a lot hotter in Plains than it is in Sylva. Get in your vehicle someday and go. Go online, look it up. You do need to make some arrangements and some plans, but he is a master. As far as I am concerned, he is a brilliant individual who came into this world to help evolve it in all of us. There was very little that he said in his Sunday school lesson, which, by the way, he changed at the last minute. It was supposed to be one thing, and he made the decision in that moment to change it. And I was like, that's because I'm here. I want to hear some science of mind. And everything I heard was so science of mind. It was phenomenal. He used the word unity. He didn't use the word oneness, but he used the word unity over and over and over in his lesson. We actually have a DVD of that. Maybe we'll watch it here one Sunday. So then I went to the experts on oneness, or to some more experts, if you will, on oneness. This is from the Global Oneness Summit, and you can find this on their website. Oneness is more than a beautiful word. Oneness is the energy of love that lies within you and connects you with all of life, helping you to recognize yourself in everyone and everything. Mystics of all traditions have experienced and shared the concept of oneness down throughout the ages. Now, this idea of oneness is being reinforced by leading-edge science, which confirms that we are all connected in remarkable ways, from the genes you supposedly inherited, to the air that we each breathe, to the consciousness, the awareness that we share. That old worldview in which we are somehow competing for survival, one against another, is giving way to a new idea in which we are collaborating together in order to thrive. The concept of oneness is not limited to any specific religion. When we scratch the surface, what we find is that it's present in every religion at its core. From the teachings of Jesus, we know that his last prayer with the disciples points to oneness. In Christianity, here he tells us, I pray that they will all be one, just as you and I are one, as you are in me, Father, and I am in you. Oneness is a core component of Native American beliefs, Hinduism, Buddhism, and many other teachings. When we see ourselves as connected to each other, it becomes impossible to comfortably harm another being, for then we realize we are harming ourselves. Everything that is comes from one source, and the very essence of that one source is in everything. Consciousness is another name for the energy and the intelligence of spirit in everything. Everything is created from the universal, and everything has the universal in it. We can try to separate it, but it doesn't separate. It is not quantitative, it is qualitative. All of its essence is here now. All of its power is here now and available to us. And some of this comes from the brilliant work of Reverend Tom Sonar from his Hermetic Teachings of Manly Palmer Hall. So it's a lovely concept, but nothing is worth speaking unless we can learn to share it, unless we know how to live it. How do we live oneness? It must begin at home. It has to. It has to begin, in fact, not only at home, in our houses, in our towns, in our counties, in our states. It must start within. If we are at odds with ourselves, holding ourselves hostage through guilt, anger, fear, or shame, we are working against the natural presence of oneness. When we harbor these kinds of feelings toward others, without working to release them or becoming willing to do so, we stymie the flow of oneness. These emotions have their place and their time, but when we recognize that we are experiencing them, it is our job as spiritual beings to begin actively working to move through them. Or, as a friend of mine used to say, to get willing enough to be willing to work through them. Sometimes we have to go back to ground zero, don't we? We can live oneness by doing a few simple things. First, we can do our own inner work. We can support organizations that teach and support the presence of oneness principles. We can teach and live oneness by consciously considering how our words, our actions, the giving of our time, and our financial wherewithal affect the entire universe. One of the things I've started looking at recently for myself is, where do the things that I purchase come from? Are the people who created this object that I desire being brutalized? Are they children? Are they seniors? Are they forced to work 12, 15, 16 hours a day? I don't want to support that. Not even in my unconscious, transactions of giving a few dollars here. Unfortunately, it seems to be a lot more expensive to buy things that were made in fair, following things like fair trade principles. Yet to me, it's worth much more to have less and to spend consciously, to give in a way that truly is growing something that is worth allowing to live. We can live oneness by engaging in prayer. I love Daniel Nahmond when that first line where he said, we go deeper into our divinity, into our wholeness, into what we believe allows, or doesn't allow, but allows for the evolution of this planet. When we go into that, we're living oneness. It's beautiful. Whatever it is that you call thoughtful dialogue with the universe at large, whenever we go into that place, whether it's brushing your horses or hiking or climbing and looking down from a mountaintop, whatever it is that feeds you, that's embodying oneness. Peace Pilgrim tells us, prayer without ceasing is not ritualized, nor are there even words. It is a constant state of awareness of the presence, that oneness of divinity. Here we are in communion with that fullness, that sense of ripe anticipation, that which tells us that life is large and damn worth living. We can practice oneness by sitting in the silence, just by listening, by hearing the ideas that come forth. Oh, wouldn't you love to read my mail? It springs from the same place Techno Chicken came from. We can live oneness by enhancing and augmenting everything that it is that we love about life, about ourselves, about others, about every little thing. A second core concept of science of mind. This one is taught in lots of places. It is the triune nature of God. The first time I saw the word triune in print, I think I had some kind of internal seizure. I grew up in the Catholic teaching where you got the Trinity whether you wanted the Trinity or not. It was Father, Son, and Holy Ghost every day. I went to parochial school. It was good stuff in many ways if I had had the map to interpret it and understand it better. What we know is that triunity is taught in every great religion, in almost every spiritual teaching. Here, we look at the triune as this. We look at it as God, whatever it is threefold in nature. God is, of course, spirit. God is that spiritual law, and God is also the end result. It is the body of our affairs. It is the amount of money in my checking account, the chairs your sweet butt sits in right now, the water we drank, the cars we drive. It is everything. God as spirit is that divine being. All religions know this one. It is that one to whom we have always thought of, looked toward, believed in, that one to whom we pray, beseeching or not. It is the one that religions seek to adore. God as law is the way in which Spirit works. It is the way in which this world works. We understand here at Open Door that it is a spiritual law, that what we put out is what will come back, that the universe always and only has one answer for us, and that answer is yes. Lastly, God is the body of our affairs. It's all the stuff. It's the stuff that we amass. It's the stuff that we move from corner to corner when we clean our houses. If you're like me, it's infrequent. It's the stuff that I take out of the kitty potty. Must I remember that with 4 cats frequently? It's interesting. How does this work? How can God be law? How do things come about from nothing? Well, Ernest Holmes tells us there is something that is called God that makes things out of itself by becoming the very things it makes. As nearly as the intelligence of the human race is able to judge, Spirit creates through contemplation. In another part of the Science of Mind text, he says, there is a formless stuff, that's a big S, stuff in the universe forever taking form, forever changing form. How do we live this triune nature? Well, one way is to see the God on this being in the next slide. There he is. He's cute, isn't he? He was really tiny, too. Like, not much bigger than the head of a pin. Mike took that picture with one of his cell phones. I don't think it was even the phone he has now because it's an old picture, probably 5 years old. You can tell my car is cleaner then, right? He was on the side of my car. We can live this triune nature by seeing divinity in everything that is. It's not always that easy with some of our creatures. Yesterday I was going in and out of the front door of my townhouse loading things in the car. About the 3rd trip out, I happened to look at the door jamb, and right there was another spider. He wasn't as cute, okay? Certainly not as colorful as that one is, but he was right at hair level, meaning my head was just practically, I could have been he could have hitched a ride, but he didn't, thank you God. So you can see how fast this woman would move, okay? I don't care for spiders, and I don't care for camel crickets, and I don't care for stink bugs. We had that conversation last week, didn't we? And I don't really care much for snakes, but if I find some, I'm going to call Lori because she can handle snakes pretty well from what I understand. So years ago, my way of dealing with something like that would have been to find a book or, God always arms women quite well, okay, a shoe, and clobber that sucker. Make sure it ain't going to jump on my head and hit your ride. Yesterday I didn't do that. I found a glass jar with a lid. I scooped him up. I took him outside and I told him, move away from the structure. This is mine. All of that is yours. We practice the triune nature when we look at the day-to-day, monotonous, often rather frustrating things that we seem called to do. Here we can take the stance that there's good or God nestled within everything, every activity, every mundane experience. Yes, you've got to clean the tub. I always get to do it with the kitty potties. Oh my, this morning I had presents on the floor too. I'm like, did you miss? What happened? But in that way, when we recognize that God is within it, we completely reframe it. When I looked at that gift on the carpet this morning, it said, really? Did you leak or did you miss? Okay? Because, it could be either one. In my house, we never know. When I got ready to clean it up, rather than curse the being that left it there, I thought, well, at least he's healthy enough to do that. Okay? If he didn't do that, I would be very worried, and sometimes it gets very expensive when that happens. This too is God, and this too I shall deal with effectively. A lot of fear might drop away when we encounter something scary such as this, or something distasteful. If instead of looking at it for what it seems to be, we call it from the place that we know it. When God within calls to God in front of us, something changes. When deep calls to deep, deep will stand up and answer. We practice the triune nature of God by looking at the superficial stuff going on in our lives. Don't have enough money, don't feel all that great, can't seem to blah, blah, blah. And recognizing that nestled within that is something holy. Nestled within that situation is truly something perfect. The third and last core concept that we're going to look at today is also truly heart and soul of science of mind. It is the law of cause and effect. Here we understand that spiritual law is constantly being set in motion. In this way, it creates from the unformed substance innumerable forms which follow the thought patterns of you and I and spirit. Ernest wrote a little book called Can We Talk to God? In this book, he tells us something really amazing about the law of cause and effect. It also tells you a lot about science of mind. Ernest says, I do not believe in hell, the devil, or in damnation. I do not believe in any future state of punishment or any of the strange ideas that have been conceived in the minds of morbid people. I love him. Sometimes he's so lofty. God does not punish people. There is, however, a law of cause and effect which governs all and which will automatically punish impartially and impersonally if we conflict with its principles of harmony. Ernest goes on to tell us, cause and effect are really one. If we have a given cause set in motion, the effect will have to equal the cause. One is the inside, the other the outside of the same thing. Again, cause and effect are but two sides of the same thing, one being an image in mind, the other its objective condition. Think about what happens when you look in the mirror. It's a perfect example of cause and effect. It's an immediate example too, isn't it? It's pretty powerful. How do we live cause and effect? Well, Ernest Holmes tells us in his writings that cause and effect and the law of karma are the same thing. So a very simple way that we were all taught back about 100 years ago, well, maybe not that long for some of you, is to simply live by the golden rule, to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We live cause and effect, in the words of the great Gandhi, by simply being the change we wish to see out there in the world. It's a pretty simple concept. I love you. Thank you.